Nakeyta Moore. If you Google me, I'm the only one there still after 33 years. And if I were to describe myself, I would say I'm a multi-hyphenate. I'm a person that believes in cross-pollination. I work in two very different industries, the first one being finance, the second one being fine art. So I get to use very much both sides of my brain every single day. And yes, always finding ways to connect people, places, and things, which is why we have made such a wonderful connection. So that's the short version of it.
And so now, through this podcast, we're going to get some of the story behind how you got all these hyphenates, all these different hyphens in your story. So you're from Maryland. I know that's what we have, like several things in common, besides the fact that you know, like a bunch of my family members.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't even know that. Like, I thought you knew one, but you know several. But you grew up in Maryland. I live in Maryland now. And where I grew up, Los Angeles, is where you live now. But how you got there, that's a story. So let's start. If you can start in Maryland, or you can start with what led you to Florida, which kind of started you on a journey around the world, like literally.
Yes. Well, I can definitely start in Maryland. I would actually start with a very specific moment. Um, when I was 8 years old, I was going to school in Baltimore City at a very posh Christian school, and it was not for me. And so instead of, screaming, throwing tantrums, complaining to my mom, I literally just ran away. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go and take my own journey, 8 years old in Baltimore City, going to my mom's job to let her know that I no longer attended this school. And first and last time that I ever rode in a cop car, all to say, I knew from then that Maryland couldn't contain me and that I couldn't be contained by any sort of rules, facilities, ideas, thoughts, people. Like I was just meant to just hold more meaning, for lack of better words. And so at 17, in the winter time of my senior year, we had the worst snowstorm ever. And so, already being a person who hated the cold, I made the executive decision that I was going to move to Miami, Florida. And honestly, at that time, I was pursuing marine biology with a concentration in bioluminescent fish. That was what was going to get me out, the anglerfish. And in a lot of ways, I can kind of see it because the anglerfish, it has a light in front of it. Everything else is dark and it illuminates its way literally through darkness. And so when I think about it, I really do kind of look at that as a sort of analogy for that time of my life. But all to say, marine biology did not last. And I fell into what honestly I had been doing my entire life, which was theater. Um, Always dancing, singing, finding ways to express myself. And so I ended up graduating with a theater degree. But also in that time, I was working on art history. I was doing study abroads in Italy and, learning about the great masters and really finding how art was, this visual scribe that was kind of untelling and unfolding, life. And so when I got out of college, back in 2014, there was really not many internship programs in Miami for a theater kid. And so I started working at a production company as a costume designer seamstress. And at that time, a woman that was their fire dancer, their resident fire dancer, moved to LA. And so they needed a fire dancer. There was a vacant spot. I, at 5 years old, almost burnt down my living room. And so I was ready. I've been ready. And so that birthed an era of fire dancing and stilt walking all over Florida, particularly in South Beach, like in like Space Nightclub, the Clevelander on South Beach. Those were kind of my main venues. And then I had the incredible opportunity that in a lot of ways kind of fell into my lap via an email. To work on cruise ships and as an art director with Park West Gallery. And I was like, okay, this was never really, in my wheelhouse, but I love traveling. I love being on the water. I had never been on a cruise ship at that point. And so I was just like, look, I am what? I think I was 22 at the time, 23. Let me just go. And so I did two amazing contracts, both with Royal Caribbean. The first contract was with a fairly large ship. The second contract was with a much more intimate ship and setting. And so I got two very different experiences, but I
Quick
was
question. How
Mhm.
long was each contract?
For sure. So the first contract was 6 months, 6 months abroad, and then the second contract was 5.5 months. And so I mean, I was anywhere from Russia to Morocco. My main ports were Southampton, England, Barcelona, Spain, and Miami, Florida. And I did the transatlantic twice. So going from Europe to America, going from America to Europe, 10 days, no land. It was wild. Um, I always tell the story of how I was stuck in Russia for a couple of days on the ship because of a really bad thunderstorm. It was swaying the ship, back and forwards. It was wild. And my mom hadn't heard from me, and I am her only child. She's in Maryland. So she spent the time to find out how to contact Maritime to somehow contact me on the boat in Russia and called and just to make sure that I was fine, but was like, make it quick. It's $600 a minute to be on this call. And so I always tell that story because it really was one of the reasons why I came home, because I was like, I want to be relevant to my family and friends. I'm already someone who is quite nomadic and always kind of on the go and figuring out this individualistic journey in life I've created for myself. But it would be best to probably do this on land.
Hmm.
Um, and so yeah, I after my second contract, I went back to Miami and was like, it's kind of fallen flat here. I feel like I need to go somewhere else. Still wasn't sure where it was going to be at that time. Went back to Maryland for another week and I was like, well, it's definitely not here.
One week is all it took.
1 week, packed one bag, and I had a friend at the time who was living out here. I had two friends actually, one of my best friends, and then a friend that I had met on my very first cruise ship from Croatia. They were both out here at the time, and I was like, look, LA, LA had always been finding its way into my psyche in some way, but I had never really sat and thought about it. And honestly, I never sat and thought about it. I just moved. So I mean, it's been 8 years since, but yeah, I mean, I didn't necessarily move to LA with an agenda. I knew that I was, enveloping into this performer who had also been well traveled, who loved art and culture, who was a fire dancer, but fire's weird in LA, so maybe not. Like I had all
Yeah, it destroys things, lots of
as
things.
we've seen,
Yeah.
especially as we've all to say, mind you, I found my ways to still perform in LA. I co-produced a circus and slash cabaret here for close to 7 years, where I found my home with many performers, amateur all the way through very experienced and talented people. But yeah, so moving to LA was quite the journey. And again, it was both with intention in some ways and absolutely just going with the flow and letting life lead through signs and signals. But it definitely, once I got here, I had to get more intentional. I had to get more discerning. I had to figure out what was going to occupy my day and reestablish my why every morning.
Okay. I do have a couple of questions. It definitely, let's put a pin in intention. But I want to go back to your 5-year-old self because sometimes I think about myself as a 5-year-old, and of course I can articulate what I was thinking as a 5-year-old, but it's with the articulation of an adult. Do you remember your 5-year-old thoughts when you realized that whatever this is that's going on that everybody else thinks is normal is not my normal?
Mhm. I mean, it feels so integral to who I am that it can be hard to find words for it because that child has found her way into so many situations, sometimes as a crutch, sometimes as a savior. And so in some ways it feels like it's my philosophy of life of like there's no container for you. Keep exploring. Like, you never asked to be here, but you definitely get to dictate what happens while you are. And so I feel like I've always carried that. I'm a little bit of, or not even a little bit, I am the black sheep of my family. I think anybody in my family would agree. Um, and I had people who saw that as a kid and nurtured that as well. And so it wasn't like I was so different and it was so bad and so weird. I feel like, honestly, like my mom, my grandmother, they encouraged my differences. And so with all of that, all of the, that recipe, it rendered a child and an adult that, again, just, I don't know if it's because I'm also a Virgo, and so, we're known to be stubborn, we're known to like be a little OCD and have already figured it out before it's already happening. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's the fact that I'm also, an Aries, and I love that people always bring in the horoscopes, and not to say that it renders my whole personality, but still, in lots of ways, that is how I identify. Um, and so, yeah, I'm a person that has strong foundations that I feel like was cultivated very young, and always a person that has been willing to set it all on fire if it's not working.
Wow. Wow. That takes a level, a high level of boldness, even though you know you're setting it on fire, if it's not working, you know that it's not going to burn you up. At least I'm assuming. I'm putting that on you. I don't know if that's actually
Yep.
correct. Let
Oh,
me know. Correct me
absolutely.
if I'm wrong.
Absolutely. No, that's exactly it. And I mean, I guess it's a dance with the elements in some way. If I'm looking at fire in the literal sense, it's malleable. You can move with it, you can dance around it, you can play with it. You must be careful, you must respect it, it must be revered. But at the end of the day, it's like life is in tandem, elements are in tandem, people are in tandem. Like, you have a say in your position in your orbit. And so, yeah, for me, I grew up with older folks, like most of my grandparents and my great aunts, and very strong older women. And they always said I was an old soul. And I always had it, that girl is going to do something. Like, I was always that person. And so I can never really, and I'm blessed for it, because I know, a lot of people don't get that same encouragement. But I don't think they had a choice, because, again, like, I was a very stubborn person where if it wasn't going my way, I'd find a way to shift it. Um, Always.
A question about the about studying abroad and the different experiences you had there. Was that another way of you being a black sheep, or did that kind of fall in line with other family members were doing in their lives, your
No,
age?
that was definitely not what other family members were doing. That was definitely me as a black sheep, me as my grandmother's golden child, little sunshine star. I definitely was that one for her, and she poured so much love and attention and money into cultivating these amazing experiences for me. And so I was blessed to, I started traveling at a very young age. My first time out of the country, I was 13. I went on a study abroad to Peru, and we were there for 2 weeks. We were in the rainforest for a week, like freaking fending for our lives. I mean, not really, but like, no, no air conditioning, no power. Everything's on a pulley system. Mosquitoes, malaria, everybody's getting sick. I didn't get sick, but everybody around me is getting, it was crazy. So I had known in some way that, again, life was so much bigger, and that if I just kept running, I would discover more and more and more, and that it doesn't end. Like, it's a globe, but you ain't gonna get to the end. Like, it's just, there's so much to discover. And again, that was instilled at a very young age. I mean, my biggest travel moments were 13, Peru, 16, Scotland. We did the Fringe Festival. We traveled to London and Scotland. And 19, for the study abroad, we went to Italy for a month, and we had a little bit of time where we could kind of be free. And I was in Europe, so went to Amsterdam for a couple of days. Um, and those were kind of like my big formidable travel experiences before actually going on cruise ships. And I mean, from there, I've been to about 28 different countries.
Wow. So, you mentioned that when you were in LA, that helped to teach you about intention. But I know in our pre-interview, you mentioned um, your introduction to Santeria
Mhm.
and some of the ways it taught you intention. Did that, in a way, help pave the way for what you learned in Los Angeles?
Absolutely. I would definitely say there's lessons that, ended up going from Miami to LA when it comes to intention, intention setting, creating sacred spaces, and finding your center anywhere for sure. Miami was very interesting and very wonderful to me in lots of ways. Definitely as a young girl who was never, though on my dad's side of the family, my grandmother married an Afro-Cuban man, Pablo. Love him. Grew up, most of my life, would always go to parties with them, love them. Like they were so fun. Inevitably, they were the reasons why I moved to Miami because I was like, there must be more of that here since all the Cubans is here. And so but still there, never really introduced, but understanding again, like that cross pollination and the fusion that Santeria is, which is the Ifa culture from the Yoruba tribe of Nigeria, essentially, mixed in with Catholicism, born from the slave trade and Africans landing in Cuba, needing to mask their home religion and doing so with Catholicism and the mixing and blending and rituals and all of the things that inevitably created a new species for this religion. I just felt like I could find so many relations and relativity to it. And again, saying as I do not practice Santeria, I only really have the information that I have researched either from a source material experience that I've had myself or just the calling. So, like, I can speak on it like at again a very high level outside of my own experiences. That being, I did live in a house with my ex-boyfriend whose parents were santeros. His dad was a babalao, which is essentially a priest. His mom was a santera. He himself had been through the rituals to become a santero, his brothers as well. And so it was something that they held in their spirit, they held in their walk, they held in everything, their communication. And so when I went into the house, there was places I couldn't go if I was on my period, there was cabinets that I couldn't open. Every time that I ate, I was expected to give something back to a deity. I did do a divination where um I received a reading, and every single thing in that reading came to pass. And so I have a very deep respect and reverence for the religion. And again, even, I grew up in Christianity and I grew up, with reverends and ushers and deacons, but there is this sense, and not to spread any sort of shade on any religion, really, and not on Christianity at all, but to say how people have taken the religion and made it a bit performative. Being a performer myself, I could spot it. And so I was like, this is not, there is a lack of authenticity to this whole notion that just didn't feel right with my spirit. With my body, yeah, cool. Like with how I can interact with community, yeah, cool. But with my spirit, nah, it's not aligning. Whereas this, what I call a root religion, like deep, 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 it's, it just felt different. And so at a young age, being able to kind of go into this house and into this space without any guard up and just really be able to receive, yes, it taught me a lot about creating sacred spaces and how to connect with the other side, and creating and that earth and our bodies are liminal spaces. We are the actual in between. And so yeah, I can go deep because if I wasn't on the lane that I'd be in now, I would be on a religious studies journey.
Hmm.
For a very long time, I thought I was going to go back to school and get an MBA in religious studies and just literally travel around the world and learn about all the different religions and the archiving of them, especially going deep into the works of the Bible that are not a part of the canon, and all of it, all of it, all of it. So yeah, I can go on that journey. But all to say, when I look at my secular life, I do find ways to, yeah, just induct again that intent. And I know intention can be such a buzzword. And so, like, what does that even mean? But it's a balance between like thoughtfulness, discernment, quietness, and like just being a beacon, like opening yourself up to receive, in a weird combination of all of that. Um, and so yeah, definitely
Wow.
formed my experience.
Wow, wow. And so, so now we're putting you in Los Angeles. And but then also we're going to reach back to your time on cruise ships because I know we had a talk about how on the ships you were in the minority. Now I know here in the States when you think minority, you automatically think maybe people of color, Black
Mhm.
folks, people of color. Um, but on the ships, it was a different type of minority as far as nationality is concerned.
Absolutely.
And maybe color too, but or
Yeah, I mean, I
race
was
and
like, it's
color
both.
too. So yeah,
Both.
talk about that and how that informed or made any kind of switch or pivot in just the way you saw humanity or the human family.
Absolutely. I love that you're saying the human family because very much it was like that. Like, um, yes.
And
So on my
people need to remember
first
that,
ship,
especially nowadays, because
it's all over. They acting up everywhere. I'm just like, look, y'all, it's yeah, that's a further conversation. Um, yes. So I was one of 19 Americans out of a crew of over 1,000. Um, and you feel it for sure. You definitely feel it because when you go out into the crew areas, for the most part, people group into their nationalities. You think, why? Familiarity. First of all, you're already away from your family. Can I find some sort of home if I'm going to be gone for some people's contracts, like in the spa, last 9 months? So you can imagine you're basically gone the entire year. And so you're going to try to find an inkling of home anywhere you can. And so a lot of folks, for the most part, would sit in their little sections of nationality. So you had a Romanian section, you had a Croatian section, a Brazilian section, a South African section. And I mean, not an American section. Literally on the 4th of July, first of all, we were in Russia. I remember this specifically. We were in Russia. We had a 4th of July party. There was all of two people there. They like there was like lights, like streaming lights, and it looked like a sad dance floor because nobody was coming to celebrate. No, but like Jamaican party, Filipino party, popping, food, everything. Because it's just, yeah, like first of all, those nationalities, they also work in the kitchen. So they can make their own culturally significant foods. There's not really many Americans that aren't either singers, performers, entertainers, art, because you're not making that much money. However, if you're translating that, because you're still getting paid, everyone gets paid in American dollars. So if you're translating that to other currencies where the American dollar is stronger, then of course, like this is a steal. It's a no-brainer. And I get to travel and meet cool people and see amazing things. And for the most part, everything is taken care of. You can save a lot of money. And so you have people kind of doing their own thing. And it's it's funny because like if you didn't say, oh, this person's from, if there was no countries, we'd all just be people. Like we all have the same goals, and people have families, people have just the dreams of becoming a better chef or becoming a whatever it may be. Like we're not that different. You cut all of us, we're all going to bleed red. So in lots of ways outside of language, food, these really important things, don't get me wrong, to culture, we're all the same. And so I feel like for me, not having the crutch of like just going up with the Americans, I really was able to kind of bounce around and experience different cultures and learn different things. And I mean, yeah, I can say a little bit, I can say a lot of curse words in a lot of languages, and it was all because of the cruise ships. Like it was wild. um and yeah, like it's very much familial. I got to go out and port with these people. I remember going out in Morocco with a Brazilian, a Croatian, and it's like we're the freaking UN around here. It's crazy. I loved it. In that way, it was so healing to just, again, like you said, like that human family experience and that invisible thread that connects us all. I just felt like, okay, this makes sense. And there's no like real colorism or racism. Like it wasn't really, I never felt Black American.
You
Yeah, like,
experience any crazy microaggressions or
oh,
anything like that?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
I won't get too deep into it, but especially looking at some of my South African friends, yes, there was definitely some situations that were like, oh, this is a cultural issue that's over here. Like I'm not a part of this. This is not my history. So yeah, we definitely had some experiences here and there, but nothing crazy and literally like some of my best friends on the cruise ship. I remember Chris Abrams. I hope you're doing well. He just had a baby from South Africa. Like some of my favorite people breathing are from South Africa. So like literally no shade, but definitely some interesting things happening between factions of folk. But yeah.
Cool, cool. So now we're in LA and you land in LA. What was it like? Like, how long did it take you to find your footing and know that you were on the right path? Because you said, you were in Maryland for a week and said, nope, this ain't happening. I'm leaving.
Mhm.
How long did it take you to find your footing? Because LA is a place, so I grew up there. My family's there. There's the support. I didn't realize how tough it could be if you don't have that support there already, how lonely a place it could be. Until I was grown and I said, oh my, if I didn't have people here, this would be the beach is not enough.
It isn't. It's so true. It's funny because I feel like it's a little egotistical to be like, oh, I found my footing. I did a panel the other day at LMU, and one of the questions was, when did you know you made it? And I was like, oh, I actually have this one, and I do, but it feels a little pompous sometimes to think that I've ever made anything or have found my footing. What I can say is that I've definitely deepened my purpose, and I've definitely found what I want to be pulled towards because LA will pull you somewhere. And sometimes it's in every direction, but if you could figure out what the main force that needs to pull you is, I feel like you've already won half the battle.
What's
Um,
the main force that needs to pull you, that you found needed to pull you?
so working in this blend of finance and art and really understanding where there's a void in the art community as an artist myself, again born and raised a performer, a frickin' fire dancer. No matter what I do, like I bring an artistic perspective and way of being to it. I'm left-handed, like there it couldn't get more artistic. And so yeah, I mean I feel like that has really kind of lended itself into any and all things. So, one, there's an art purpose to bring more beauty and color to white and blank spaces. So, that's one. But two, even to deepen that, to create a lane for financial literacy, particularly among artists, but also amongst Black women, people of color, queer people, and deepen that lane because some of the conversations that I have for the first time should have been the conversation you had before you got your first job. So it's like, to reframe and restructure how people live this existence so that we can take advantage of the American dream that isn't dead, it's just buried. You just need to know how to access it. And so I'm here with a shovel trying to figure out who's coming to like, let's dig it and let's dig it deep so that the Gen Z and Gen QL57, whatever they are next, don't have the same issues that the millennials have of being the most educated but the least paid, the least supported. How does this work? And everybody's an entrepreneur. How does this work? So I feel like my purpose And honestly, I would say with the current administration, my purpose deepened even more. Um, is and it's just growing and expanding, and the types of people, places, things that I'm putting my influence and hands on has been like I couldn't even imagine. I couldn't even imagine. And so I would say that's what's pulling me right now, is to be a beacon and a light for people who think there is no hope because they haven't set themselves up, or they're not rich already, or they're grandpappy, whatever. But it's like, what are the things that we can do to create self-sufficiency? And how do we really take advantage of the fact that charity begins at home?
Hmm.
And so that's really what pulls me every day and gets me up and out of bed. And I do it scared. Sometimes I do it tired. I'm doing it sometimes broke myself, like there I'm constantly coming, because I am that millennial that I'm talking about.
Okay. Okay.
It's like, if I can figure it out, if I can get it together, then great, I have a roadmap. So now I can just teach other people how to do the same. And so yes, it's been a mirror and a map.
Wow, a mirror and a map. Okay. And I know one of the things we were talking about last time is that everyone, and you mentioned it a couple of minutes ago, that everyone doesn't have deep pockets to rely on, especially as they pursue their talents, and the dreams that are supported by their talents. And I think it would be, I don't want to call it, is it a travesty? Is that the right word? It would be, we would be missing out, and we wouldn't even know that we're missing out on great perspectives, great thoughts, great ways of looking at the world, things that can change the way that we view life and humanity and how to relate to each other, because a deeply talented artist has to work at McDonald's. No shade on working at McDonald's at all. The VP, Kamala Harris, worked at McDonald's. But we would be missing out on something if that's all the person could do, because that's all they could do to make a living. And maybe they were so tired once they got home, they didn't have time to create the art that would change the world, if that makes sense.
Yes. Absolutely. And especially for creators. I mean, I look at people as writing, kind of a tandem of creation and consumption. And, artists are creators. They have creator energy. They are a conduit for whatever is trying to enter the world. Like, that is creation.
Mhm.
And
You think that's divine? I kind of think that
oh,
stuff is
absolutely.
divine.
I think it's
Yeah.
divine. I think it's so many things. I think it's magnetic. I think it's so many things that are playing into how ideas actualize themselves. It's beautiful. And like you're saying, to be able to support that, it's not like we're trying to support people who just want to lay around and be on TikTok. And like, I was just doing an artist studio visit with a collector yesterday, and she was like, "Yeah, like I watch TV and sometimes I just pause it because I'm like, oh my goodness, that pose, that like even within the consumption, figuring out a way to create." It's like, yes, that is exactly the energy, the people, the spirit that we want and need to cultivate as human beings, that honestly are losing so much of our humanity with the fact that we also, like bees who create honey, we create technology. But that technology is phasing us out in a really fast and way that it's like, it's jarring. We're at a really weird time right now. And so, again, to be able to pour deeper into our creative spirit in a way that allows it to still stay with us, I think is so important.
You find anyone is concerned about AI?
Oh, everybody,
Okay.
everybody.
'Cause I'm like, I write things
Yeah.
every day, and AI can write things every day. It's like, well, is there going to be a need for me? Who knows?
Yes.
Who knows? AI can do an interview.
That's what I was about to say. AI could probably, with a paragraph of words that I say, a paragraph of words of you say, and understanding kind of where our brains and histories, just a few couple, just we could prompt this conversation. But at the same time, could we? I'm not a script. Like, this is coming from me organically. And so I beg to differ that my pauses and my corrections and work, like all of those things make us human. And I think they're the most beautiful flaws that there ever could be. So to erase them is like, yes, you're right, we will get productivity. But like, what does that even mean? Like,
There's
so
something about the look. I just thought about what you said. There's something about the look. You know the look. And there's so much, depending on who's giving the look and who's receiving the look, the context, there is so much that can be communicated in that
so
look.
true. It is so true. It is so true. And especially us as Black women, as everyone knows, we are the master of looks. We don't have to say much. We choose to speak because that is civil. But I could give you some looks, you know exactly what I mean. Uh, what the amount of time, oh, speaking of the ship, the amount of times I was told to fix my face is wild. The amount I was told legally to fix my face is crazy. Anyways, yes, there's so much that comes with the human complex that is so beautiful. And I mean, yeah, it's just, yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And I see it getting phased out. I think of it as, a couple of weeks ago, everybody was on the rapture. I agree. I
Oh
think
gosh,
it's
I forgot
something,
about
the
that.
rapture has happened because the next wave of technology is going inside. That is the mark of the beast. Like, and I'm not trying to be here on my prophetic, high horse of saying I know anything, but all to say, like, if we're just gonna bring it into like what's kind of obvious, like, so yeah, it's a really interesting time to be a human and to try to preserve humanity. We're having less kids. The children now are not impressed. They all think Earth is ghetto. It's just hard out here.
It's not just the kids.
I was like, I will honestly cancel my adult subscription. It's been fun and thank you for the opportunity. Like, I'm done.
I say that at least every day. I'm like, everything is ghetto. I'm like, thank you, Aaliyah Sheffield, for that song. Earth is ghetto.
Yeah.
I do want to leave sometimes.
For real, I'm just like, I can't even blame people sometimes because this is like not it. None of us signed up for this.
Yeah, it's wild. And so,
COVID has changed, and I don't even think it even matters who you are. It has changed a human level of awareness as a collective. And I just feel like people are out here empathic, just like trying to get through their day. We're seeing more people in their empathic cycle of life. And maybe it's rendered in a way that is beautiful and loving and giving, but sometimes it's rendered in a way where we see people just drenched in anger and drenched in worry. And it's just like we're in this era of feeling and emotion that is completely taking over the practicality part.
hmm,
And we see it in politics, we see it everywhere.
hmm.
I'm just like,
Um, so let's go back to politics because that's one of the areas that I say is ghetto all the time. It's just 100% ghetto. I never really thought about empathic being expressed in anger. I always think of kindness, warmth, understanding where the other person is coming from, not fear that you are being replaced and doing everything you can to scrunch others down so that you won't be replaced or so that you won't be in a position where your mind thinks you're going to be replaced, if that
mm,
makes sense.
I mean, there's a flip side of every coin. Of every single situation, scenario, way of being, there's the opposite. That is literally, I think, how the construct of atoms stay together is that there needs to be polarization via negative and positive. And so, yes, absolutely. I think that's why we say hurt people hurt people. It's a transfer of that energy, of that emotion, of yes, absolutely. I think just like you can be an optimist, you can be a pessimist, and those are both, how you feel and approach and exist in the world. Um, and so yeah, maybe I did just make up my own theory. I don't know, but I'll take it. Like, yeah, I would definitely
Look, we invent and come up with things all the time.
won't it?
And
If I put it on a TikTok, it'll go viral.
yeah,
That's
there you go.
But speaking of politics, one thing that I do want to record and kind of staple is a moment in history that we are experiencing right now with the demolition and construction of the East Wing. This currently means every single photo we have ever seen of the White House is now historic. The White House will never look the same again.
Never.
And it's
Even
like,
if they decide to rebuild everything exactly as it was, it's still going to be a little bit different. It's still not the same.
exactly. And so with that, I'm like, we are experiencing history time and time and time again. And that's why we need to hold on to our scribes, our writers, our artists, our actors, like the people that are somehow can take whatever energy is happening and put it into a story that is allegorical and understandable and can be told, for
Oh,
generations to
wow.
come. And yeah, it's a really interesting moment that we are in where I feel like logic has kind of just left the chat completely. I don't even think anybody is expecting anything logical to happen. It's just like happening and then we're dealing with it. We're in a
Yeah.
really reactive phase
Yeah.
where we don't feel like in control. Um yeah, and so it's a really weird time to be American. It's a really weird time to be a citizen of the world. Um it's a weird time to be an adult. It's a weird time to be a kid. It's just weird. It's weird and I love my cat. Like that's literally where I am. I'm like, she is my mentor right now. Just teach me to exist, to breathe oxygen, to touch grass, to just be. Like
Meow.
we're always that human doing, but like what happened to human being?
Oh,
So
yeah.
just tapping like deeper into that. And again, like she's literally right here watching me doing.
Being.
No, I'm doing stuff. She's being, I'm doing.
Oh my gosh. So, going from feeling hopeless because of the current state of the world to back to being empowered. What led to your choice to become a financial advisor? Because to me, that empowerment is seeping out of that choice
Mhm.
because you're empowering yourself and you are indefinitely empowering others. So what led you to that? When you became a financial advisor, did you have the idea in mind to help artists when you made that choice, or is it something that came to you?
Okay, so let me also say for the record, I am a financial representative. So to back it on up, finance is one of the most regulated industries in America. We're regulated by SEC, we're regulated by FINRA. There's a lot. And so even the way that I have to present myself is in a specific title in a specific way with specific disclosures. And so I work with Northwestern Mutual as a financial representative. And I am working to get my investment licensing so that I can become a certified financial planner and financial advisor. And so I'm still very much in the elementary stages of building my finance career. However, what really created that shift for me was the change in administration and really understanding that if the government wasn't going to come and save us, if it wasn't our families, because our families weren't prepared to do so, then it had to start with ourselves. And so I had to, one, again, like I was saying, become more self sufficient if I was going to teach other people to do the same. And it had to be in a way that was authentic, that was not contrived, and that truly allowed me, like you said, to bring and exude empowerment because sales, which ultimately any sort of commerce, I'm still in finance, commerce, sales. Sales is a transfer of energy. And so if I'm going to transfer the energy of empowerment, it has to be authentic. Humans are authenticity detectors. We know when you are faking the funk. And so to be able to really be in this position as who I am, knowing that I don't look like what you would think a financial advisor or representative would look like. Again, am very quirky and I talk a lot with my hands and I have piercings and like I'm just not your average Joe or Jane. And so I have to double down even deeper And so I've been taking this journey very slow and finding ways where I can take all of my experience and expertise as a fine art advisor, which I can very much claim to be. I've been a fine art advisor for over a decade. I have an LLC as an arts advisory. I've run the whole gambit when it comes to, you know, building a collector basis, working with art fairs, working with galleries, other advisors, dealers, you name it, all from emerging all the way to blue chip. I would say I'm kind of in the pinnacle of my art career right now. But with that, again, I knew that I needed to practice what I preach and have a little bit, not even a little bit, a lot more self-sufficiency under my belt to be able to work in an industry that ultimately is a luxury industry. Though that's not your bare bones. Art isn't, or I'm so sorry, art making is bare bones. Art purchasing is not bare bones. Though it does support the ecosystem of art making, let's be serious. The purchasing part is not necessary. Getting your finances together, I have a quote: life is like a sandwich. No matter which way you flip it, the bread always comes first. Get your finances right. So even just that part for me, and just I was never taught, financial literacy. I went to a college prep. We had one economics class and we didn't talk anything about what I tell people today. And so it's like, wow, since we're being told to go fend for ourselves and maybe find it on TikTok or see what the algorithm feeds us, but none of that information is from a licensed professional, because a licensed professional cannot give you information in that format. Like, so even if they're saying it, then that's not true because they're regulated. So it's like, again, taking the regulations and really having to, you know, build in a very intentional way, to bring back that word, and bringing that to a industry that has no regulations. The art industry has no regulatory body. None. You could say the closest you get are the auction houses, where you'll get some information about public sales, not even private sales. So it's very unregulated. That's why, money laundering and all these other things can be associated with the art world. And it's very much a mystified place, even for the partakers. And so, all to say, creating a little bit more structure and pillars and legs that we can stand on in the art community, which has everything to do with, well, if you're going to take an entrepreneurial role and essentially be self-insuring your life, like, we need to have X, Y, and Z in place for you so that you can continue to grow, like expand, and then also know how to spend down your money. So it's a lot of that is, they both inform each other. A lot of my clients are artists. And it's been a really interesting expansion, like I said, and deepening of my purpose, of what inevitably I'm going to be giving back to this world. The trajectory of people's lives that I'm changing and redirecting is like, whoa, it's deep. And so I
What's an
love.
e- what's an
Mhm.
example of someone's life that you have seen a definite redirection? You don't have to give names or anything like that,
Yeah.
but like, what's an example of someone whose life you saw do a total 180, or even if it was like a change of a couple of degrees, but even a change of a couple of degrees, being on a ship,
Yeah.
1 degree will send you in a totally different direction.
Absolutely. And yes, I mean, I can kind of, speak high level on
Mhm.
it, but yeah, I mean, I've seen people who just didn't have certain things in place, didn't have, hi, like, I'm saving all my money here, I'm doing this or I'm doing this, and I'm not utilizing the full range of, you know, just things available. I'm just single-minded because of what my mom taught me, or what the internet says, or what I learned. And it's just like, we need to be less focused and realize you don't know what you don't know. And so a lot of it is, uh, even mostly after every single first conversation that I have with people, where I learn a little bit more about what they do, how myself and my firm can be helpful. After that, like, even just sometimes that conversation and knowing someone's listening to you, someone cares, and someone has tailored advice, not Googled advice, but tailored advice, and is willing to take the journey with you, not drop off after a year once they got their pay, but actually take this journey and mold and mend and almost be, I get to be an architect and an artist of someone's financial life in a lot of ways. And so, yeah, I mean, again, I'm always going to bring an artistic perspective to it. So maybe that's just me, but I really do feel like that's, in a sense, what I'm doing. And so, yeah, I've just seen eyes light up and people have hope, like, and you can feel it. It's even sometimes, a lot of times I'm doing things through Zoom, like you can feel it, like it's crazy. Um, yeah.
So now let's talk about Art Loud LA. You mentioned it before, but let's get little bit more specific with it and the void that it's helping to fill, not feel,
Mhm.
the void that it's helping to fill. And I'm sure it creates feelings, but
Absolutely. You're not wrong. It's it's evolved from a platform that is, supporting artists by putting on shows in unconventional spaces. We've been in warehouses, we've been in restaurants. I was planning with a barber shop at one point, into a collector's advisory service, that really helps, deepen the educational portion of collecting, whether it is from conservation to, collecting based off of, again, education rather than speculation. um, and just and really tuning that relationship between the artist and the collector in a way where it's like a friend in a lot of ways. The art industry wasn't built off of that. It was built off of the names of dead artists. And so now that we're in an era where the contemporary art market has exploded, a lot of the art that we're seeing now are from artists that are alive. And so therefore we're supporting their careers, we're supporting their kids, we're supporting their studios, their rent, like all of it, their livelihoods. And so there has to be a much more intentional way of going about supporting the arts community because it matters. It's not just going back to an estate. And so a lot of it is just getting people into studios and getting to feel and touch and be in these environments that are important, these important third spaces that are disappearing as we see lots of galleries are closing. Just the arts at large are under attack with the administration, just so many things. So
Mhm.
all to say, like, yes, it's a really interesting time to have an advisory, and I feel like I'm constantly using my ability and my expertise within cross pollinations to make and create bridges, sponsorships, partnerships. I'm working with the art fair named Butter in Indianapolis to expand Butter to LA. And so, helping with art fair curatorial services, and just really being a collector support network. Um, I have this quote that says, art making and viewing invites the contemplation of all we know, don't know, and always wondered. And that's really the space that I'm trying to create, like this forum of conversations of what can be discovered when we just have conversations.
Right. Right. Is there any concern or fear because of where we are in this year, 2025, that that there are forces out there that don't necessarily want to think about what was good. Well, they only want to think about what was the nice shiny parts, but not necessarily the horrible parts, which are part of the story that go hand in hand with the nice and shiny parts. Is there any fear that um, true artistic expression will kind of be squashed, especially the type of art that makes you think about the not so good things and the good things, the sublime, the wonderful, and the opposite?
um no, I think art's too powerful. If I look at every movement of art movement was a response to the movement or something that was happening, whether it was the impressionist movement that was a response to the camera. So we needed to, create more texture and form and colors and blends. And art will prevail. It is what like I said, bees, honey, humans technology, but also humans art. And so I think that's why it can never, as long as we stay human. Now that's another conversation. But
Hmm.
if we stay human in this body with the arms, the legs, the brain, that stuff, absolutely. We have, because again, creator and consumption energy is on a tandem. And so they both exist and they both will continue to exist. So I think art as we kind of experience it may change. It may go more digital. It may be a little bit less color or rawness, but even then, like, I don't think so. I think there's always someone in the corner of someone's basement that's creating, the next incredible artwork that is going to change someone's mind. Like, it's just, art is too powerful to be squandered. Will art be archived? Inevitably, yes. That is, art is an archive. And so in lots of ways, what we're experiencing now, it'll be in the history books, but there will be enough, like, it goes like that. So I don't have much doubt in the art making and creation experience. The supporting experience definitely has to be rewired and reworked, but that's what I feel like myself, the team that has been brought together because of Butter, that's what we're working on, is that preservation of these incubator spaces where artists can figure out just that and not have to be contrived by, because also we're in the rise of brand sponsorships taking on lots of artists. And, we want to make sure that artists are able to maintain their authentic voices. And so I feel like, yeah, like we're not, the art world in itself isn't going anywhere. And as the good book says, this too shall pass. So I'm not really too worried about it's just making it through this little hump, this little weird time that we're currently in, my
Okay.
opinion.
Okay.
I could be
That's that
completely
gives me hope because sometimes I wonder if the forces that are might seek to, because fi going back to fire, fire burns things up. You can burn things, you can delete things, you can erase things, or at least try to, because there's, like you said, there's always some sort of record somewhere. But what if people don't know that there's something that used to be? What if they don't know that it ever was, if that makes sense?
Well, it's funny that you say that because again, it kind of brings me back to, and maybe we have social media to thank for it, but
Mhm.
like even Black people, like how many times have they tried to burn it, steal it, break it, rob it, you name it, bop it, flip it? Like, I'm just like, why? And
You know
also
what?
how, but
Yeah.
we carry this in our blood, in our ancestral line. We have access to that knowledge. And at the end of the day, I find much more educated young Black women and men that know their history and that care about the preservation of that history. And so, in lots of ways, I feel like it's on us, the younger generations, the ones who they're not dumb. They see the erasure that's happening as well. And so I feel like they have really taken it upon themselves. And I'm talking because I do know a lot of, especially visual storytellers, like the videographers, um yeah, there's a lot of young talented artists that are working to preserve and to document and archive and make sure that erasure does not happen anymore because we've seen it happen time and time again.
Okay. I should not worry. I should not worry.
We're in work mode. Like, I'm telling you, some of these artists that I work with now, like, outside of a lot of the world builders, because that's something I think is beautiful too, is that you can create your own world and pull people into it, and your art be a portal to that world and to the
Mm,
messages that can be pulled from that world. Seen it time and time again, and I love it. And I've seen it a lot with Black females creating worlds that have access to these knowledges, and it's beautiful. Um, but outside of the world building, there is also like archiving and invention. Like I work with this artist, Not Too Fall, who has something called the Mod Code alphabet. And the Mod Code is based off of a Mod seed, which is native to Senegal. Um, Not to throw her mama under the bus, but she brought some seeds back from Senegal to Florida, planted them in her garden. And so when Natu went to visit her mother in Florida, she took the seeds and then she started breaking them apart. She broke them apart in 26 different ways to create an alphabet. And that alphabet she then translates into her artwork, into a code that, I mean, really only the collector knows what the code is decoded to. But what she does is she lots of times will take English, Wolof, which is the native language of Senegal, and French. And oh, Cheryl, your cousin saw this actually. She was at
Mhm.
the exhibition, and she'll essentially flatten the languages by using the mod code. And so they're all going to look the same. You wouldn't know what's French, what's Wolof, which is English. And also, Wolof is not even a written language, it's oral. So she's like inventing, archiving. She's like, it's so yes, we got this on lock.
Okay. Okay.
On lock. And it's evolving in ways that I feel like are so beautiful and still again allows that creator energy to shine through.
Right. Wow. Wow. Worry, worriest thou not. I don't even know if that's the proper way to say it.
I love it.
Don't
I'm
worry.
here for it. I'll take it.
And let's see, I think we kind of we did touch on this. But I'm going to ask this question anyway. Have you noticed any changes or shifts in the art world since the political discourse surrounding things like equity and diversity has become way more contentious? And if so, what are the shifts? And have there been any changes in demand for art as a result or increased interest?
Absolutely. It's a madhouse right now in the art industry from top to bottom. Um, Again, as I was saying, you have lots of galleries either closing or going private, whatever that means. You have, museums that are closed. I mean, one, even just thinking about like right now, today, we're in a government shutdown. A lot of museums, Smithsonian, Portugal, they rely on government funds, so they are closed for who knows how long. To Amy Sherrill pulling her exhibition. Like, I mean, it's every single day for the most part, I'm hearing something else about a major shift happening in the art world. Right now, we are moving into more of an accessible art movement as well. To me, that is what, after contemporary and digital art, the next movement is the accessible art movement, which is a rebellion from the fact that art does come from this place of luxury and this place of elitism, for lack of better words, and schools and families. Um, and so right now we really are in this accessible art movement. So we're seeing smaller works. We're also seeing works that are more like portrait style because portraits fit better into homes. Landscape, you need a little bit more space. Um, just more affordable work because now, all generations or want to collect art to beautify their homes, not just get something from eBay or Walmart or IKEA, but really be able to support maybe a neighbor that's an artist or their friend or whoever it may be. And so I just feel like art has entered the conversation and the lexicon in a way that even in LA, I will say this as like a mic drop if nobody's noticed it, people have been frequenting art spaces like they are the club. Like I'm talking
Really?
about the energy has shifted completely. Mind you, it's not like the conversations in these spaces aren't focused around the art and what's happening in the art world because they are. But in the sense of how people are congregating, even like people will come out in the freshest fits, like they're going to the club. And it's like, it's beautiful. Like, yes, in a way, it's like, this is interesting. Why are you here? But also, it's kind of beautiful to see that this art space is enticing people because one, you get free drinks. Some of the galleries, give you free drinks, a lot of them. You have amazing art on the walls. You have incredible, smart people that are good looking that you can talk to and engage with, and you already have an icebreaker right there. It's not awkward. Everyone has come to interact with people. You don't just, you go to the club and you just with your friends. Y'all could have did that at home.
And the
But
music is too loud.
exactly. And so in these spaces, it's like, wow, I have good conversation, free drinks, amazing people, and it's just blowing up. And so I'm seeing more and more people that are art enthusiasts and that are not collectors and have nothing to do with the art world in general frequenting these spaces on a Friday night, on a Thursday night. It's really, really cool to see. And so there is much opportunity for new community and these fusions of community that have the foundation of art. And I really, really love that.
Cool, cool. That is really cool. Did you notice? Yeah. Did you notice that before, during, after COVID, the pandemic? Do you think the pandemic played any type of role in that? Because I remember like art walk. I went to a couple of art walks when I was home visiting. I can't remember if that's still going on like it
Absolutely.
was. It is? Okay. And so I remember those, but I never got like the club type feel. Do you notice like the club type feel in that shift before, during, after the pandemic? A little bit of both, maybe?
I would say definitely after the pandemic. Um, Before the pandemic, galleries, or remind you, after the pandemic, because of social media. Social media changed the art game completely because it flattened the voice. You didn't just need to go to a gallery to have access to an artist. You didn't just need to know a good dealer to have first access to an artist. You could just go to the artist. And so a lot of people grew hundreds of thousands, millions of followers off of Instagram. And now that's where they sell their work or they sell it on these online platforms. And so these spaces in general have just flipped and are so dynamic that especially here in LA, is the birth of dynamicism itself has is this city. Um, like it's changed completely the landscape. And again, that's what birthed the accessible art movement. Galleries for the most part have known to be a little bit pretentious. But now, like you walk in the gallery, you're like, hey, how are you? You need a water? What do you need? You need a foot rub? Like they just want to be your friend because they know that this sort of relationship isn't happening anymore. It's few and far, and it's happening at the top levels. And even there, it's being like I watch the art market report that comes out from Art Basel every single year. And I mean, the trends always show you kind of what's going on and where is things being bought and sold. And like the top levels are getting hit. They're getting
Wow.
hit. So yeah, it's just the landscape of art and art buying has changed completely. Again, I would say the pandemic only because not even only, but one of the main factors being the creative economy boom, as well as 2020 was really where a lot of Black artists got put on the map. And I don't know why that was like the year that people realized that Black artists exist, but here we are. And so, from the Kehinde Wileys to like, that's really, and I guess it really started with the Obamas and the Obama portraits. And that's when people were like, oh, wow, look at all these artists. It's like, wow. But now it's like, you have your art giants that it feel like your Bisa Butlers and like the ones that like they feel like untouchable. The Amy Sherrills, like they're like the art heroes now. And I feel like 2020 just really made all of that kind of explode and envelop. And mind you, they were still popular before, but now they're like here, like they're household names and like heroes, and it's really interesting. So yeah, it's a beautiful time for the arts, but you got to be here, you got to be creative. You can't just do one thing anymore. It has to be cross collaborative. It has to be in a way that invites other audiences and other modes of thinking because the old guard is out.
Wow. I'm hearing like different things. Basically, just life being life. It's a beautiful time. It's a concerning time. It's the best of times and the worst of times.
And won't life do it to you?
It
Won't
sure will,
life do it to
won't
you?
it?
But I'm like, and we're just here really feeling it all because it's in our faces, it's on our phones, it's in our conversations, it's in our communities. Like, we're in the big, everybody's in the big leagues now. It's not just like, oh, I get to choose this. No, this is not a choose your own adventure. So sorry. So sorry.
So a couple of questions to wrap it up.
Yeah.
The first one is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to convey? And then the last question will be the experimental one that we talked about.
Okay, good. Is there anything that we didn't cover that I want to talk about? I don't think so. I feel like I got to express a lot of my opinions because they are opinions. And as opinions, in my opinion, should be. They come and go, they reform, they reformulate, and it's always based off of hopefully really good knowledge of whatever I intake. But yeah, I feel like this was really fun. I feel like I've learned a little bit more about myself as well.
Hey, awesome. That is awesome. And so the last question, um, if you could ask the next guest a question, thank you for putting me onto this because other podcasts are doing this and I'm going to try it on mine. If you could ask the next guest a question, what would it be? And this is going to be interesting because, yeah, I'm trying to think. The next couple of guests are very different from each other.
Okay.
And I'm like, this is why this is so exciting.
Yes, that's fun. I love this. This is going to be great. Okay. So my question is, okay. If new aliens, because I believe aliens have already been here some way, somehow. So if new aliens came down to Earth and they asked you to describe love with three objects, what would they be?
If new aliens
You just say aliens. I'm
came,
just saying,
okay.
I'm like, the aliens have been here, but the new ones. So
If
it's aliens,
if aliens came down to Earth and asked you to describe love with three objects, what would it be? Ooh, okay. That's an interesting question.
right?
I might have to think about an answer for myself.
It gets you thinking. It gets you thinking.